The morning sun streamed through my bedroom windows as I stretched lazily in silk sheets, 3 days before my engagement party. At 24, I had everything. Loving stepfather, Richard Ashford, devoted fiancé, Alexander Blackwood, and a fortune waiting for me. Life couldn't be more perfect. "Miss Lara, breakfast is ready," Mrs. Peterson called through the door. Downstairs in the dining room, Richard sat reading his newspaper, silver hair immaculate as always. "Good morning, sweetheart. Ready for Saturday's big celebration?" "More than ready," I laughed, settling into my chair. "Where's Vivian this morning?" "Still sleeping. You know how she is." Richard's tone held that familiar, gentle exasperation reserved for his biological daughter. Vivian and I had never been close, despite living together for over a decade. She was the quiet, bookish type who preferred her room and novels. I was the social butterfly organising charity galas and society functions. We existed in separate worlds under the same roof. "The florists arrived this afternoon," I mentioned, spreading jam on my croissant. "White roses and baby's breath for the main displays, with blue delphiniums to match my dress." "Your mother would be so proud," Richard said softly, and I felt the familiar pang of loss. Mother died when I was 12. Richard married Vivian's mother, Patricia, 2 years later. When Patricia passed from cancer 3 years ago, it left just the three of us. Heels clicked against marble as Vivian appeared in the doorway. Her auburn hair fell in waves over a cream sweater and dark jeans. A house understated as always, contrasting my glamorous style. But something was different today. Tension in her shoulders, shadows under her green eyes. "Morning," she said quietly, avoiding my gaze as she poured coffee with trembling hands. "You look tired, honey," Richard observed with concern. "Everything all right?" "Couldn't sleep," Vivian murmured. "Pre-party jitters?" I teased. "I know you hate crowds, but it'll be fun. The Thornton twins will be there. You always like discussing literature with them." "Right. Wonderful." Her smile seemed forced, and something cold settled in my stomach. "Actually, help me choose jewellery for Saturday. I can't decide between mother's pearls and the sapphire set grandmother left me." Something flickered across Vivian's face too quickly to identify. "The sapphires. They'll complement your dress beautifully. Those sapphires have been in the family for generations," Richard agreed. "Your great-great-grandmother wore them to her engagement party in 1892. As we chatted, I couldn't shake the feeling that Vivian was watching me with unusual intensity. When I laughed at Richard's story about his bungled proposal to my mother, I caught her staring with an expression I'd never seen. Something almost hungry. "Viv, you're staring," I said lightly. She blinked rapidly, snapping out of a trance. "Sorry, just... You look radiant. Happiness suits you." Something was off about her tone, but my phone buzzed with Alexander's text. "Missing you already. Can't wait to make it official on Saturday. Love you, beautiful..." "Alexander's such a romantic," I sighed happily. "I'm the luckiest woman alive." "Yes," Vivian said quietly, fingers tightening around her cup. "You really are." Vivian disappeared after breakfast, claiming errands in town. The day passed in preparation flurry. Wedding planner with fabric samples, caterer with menu tastings. "I'm proud of your match," Richard said as we reviewed the guest list. "Alexander's steady, ambitious, from good family. Your mother wanted you to marry for love, but it helps that he can provide for you." "He's perfect," I agreed, touching my simple engagement ring. "Sometimes I can't believe how everything fell into place, like a fairy tale." "You deserve every happiness, sweetheart." That evening, soaking in lavender-scented bubbles, I reflected on my perfect life. The Ashford textile fortune would be mine someday, and, combined with Alexander's shipping business, we'd be one of the city's most powerful couples. Drifting toward sleep, I heard voices in the hallway. Vivian's voice, low and urgent on her phone. "Saturday night, after the party. Yes, I understand. No, she won't suspect anything." The words were muffled, but her tone made my skin prickle. I pressed my ear to the door, but the conversation had ended. Probably coordinating my surprise gift, I told myself. Vivian was always secretive about presents. The next morning brought controlled chaos. Florists, decorators, staff preparing the ballroom. I spent the day in fittings, my midnight blue engagement gown making my blonde hair shimmer like spun gold. "You look like a movie star," gushed my best friend Elena. "I feel like one. Everything's so perfect, it doesn't feel real. Just pre-party nerves. Wait until you see Alexander's face." My phone rang with Alexander's name. "Hello, handsome." "Hello, beautiful. How are preparations going?" "Wonderfully. The ballroom looks like a palace." "Actually, I wanted to discuss Saturday night. It's a surprise, but Vivian helped me plan it. She's been incredibly helpful. I had no idea how thoughtful she could be." Cold unease traced down my spine. "Vivian helped you?" "She approached me weeks ago with ideas, said she wanted to make your engagement extra special. I never realised how well she knows you." My palm grew damp around the phone. "What kind of ideas?" "Can't tell you, it would ruin the surprise, but trust me, it's a night you'll never forget." After hanging up, I stared at my reflection. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones, a creeping certainty that my perfect life was about to shatter. But what could Vivian be planning? She'd never shown interest in my relationships, seeming almost indifferent to Alexander during his visits. I forced a smile at my reflection. I was being paranoid. Vivian was my sister, not by blood, but by circumstance. She might be moody, but she wasn't malicious. She was probably trying to be more involved. Tomorrow would be perfect. It had to be. But preparing for bed, I couldn't shake Vivian's hungry stare, or Alexander's strange tone when mentioning her name. Something was building in my perfect life shadows, and I was walking blindly toward it with sapphires around my throat. The last thing I remembered before sleep was footsteps in the hallway, pausing by my door just a moment too long. Tomorrow was my engagement party. My fairy tale would either begin in earnest or end in ways I couldn't imagine. In my dreams, I danced in a ballroom full of shadows, reaching for a prince who kept slipping through my fingers like smoke. Saturday evening arrived with golden light streaming through the ballroom's crystal chandeliers. I stood before my full-length mirror, adjusting the sapphire necklace that had belonged to generations of Ashford women. The midnight blue gown hugged my figure perfectly, the silk flowing like liquid starlight. "You're absolutely stunning," Eleanor breathed, fastening the matching sapphire earrings. "Alexander won't be able to take his eyes off you." A soft knock interrupted us. "Come in," I called. Vivian entered wearing a simple black cocktail dress, her auburn hair swept into an elegant updo. For once, she looked almost radiant. There was a glow about her I'd never seen before, a confidence that seemed foreign on her usually reserved features. "You look beautiful, Lara," she said, her green eyes sparkling with something I couldn't identify. "Those sapphires are perfect." "Thank you. You look lovely too, Viv." And she did, though something about her transformation unsettled me. "I have something for you." Vivian held out a small crystal vial filled with amber liquid. "A family recipe from Mother's side. She used to say it brought good luck to brides-to-be." I accepted the vial, examining the honey-coloured contents. "What is it?" "Just herbs and spices in wine. You're supposed to drink it before the celebration begins." Her smile was warm, sisterly, "For happiness and fertility." Eleanor clapped her hands together. "How thoughtful! Family traditions are so romantic." Something nagged at me, but Vivian's genuine expression dispelled my doubts. I uncorked the vial and downed the contents in one gulp. It tasted bitter beneath the wine's sweetness, leaving an odd metallic aftertaste. "Perfect," Vivian murmured, her eyes glittering. Now you're ready. We descended the grand staircase together, the ballroom's magnificence taking my breath away. White roses cascaded from every surface, baby's breath creating clouds of delicate beauty. Blue delphiniums provided elegant accents that perfectly matched my gown. The string quartet played softly as guests mingled in their finest attire. Alexander stood near the entrance in his black tuxedo, devastatingly handsome as always. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his blue eyes scanning the room until they found me. The smile that spread across his face made my heart flutter. "There's my beautiful fiancé," he said, taking my hand and pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "You look absolutely magnificent." "Thank you, darling. The ballroom is perfect, don't you think?" "Almost as perfect as you." He spun me in a small circle, my gown flowing around us. "I have that surprise I mentioned. Later, after dinner." "I can hardly wait." I leaned up to kiss his cheek, inhaling his familiar cologne. The evening progressed like a dream. We danced, mingled with guests, accepted congratulations and well wishes. Richard gave a touching speech about family and love, bringing tears to my eyes. Throughout it all, I noticed Vivian watching from the sidelines with that same intense stare, occasionally whispering to guests I didn't recognise. As the night wore on, a strange fatigue began creeping through my limbs. The ballroom felt warmer than before, the conversations around me becoming muffled and distant. I attributed it to excitement and the late hour. "Are you feeling all right?" Alexander asked during our third dance. "You look a bit pale." "Just tired," I murmured, leaning heavily against his chest. "It's been such a long day. Perhaps we should do the surprise now before you're too exhausted to enjoy it." Alexander led me to the centre of the ballroom, signalling the quartet to stop playing. The guests gathered around us in a semicircle, their faces expectant in the chandelier light. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alexander announced, his voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence, "thank you all for being here to celebrate this special evening with us." Applause rippled through the crowd. I swayed slightly, gripping Alexander's arm for support as dizziness washed over me. "Before we continue," Alexander continued, his tone shifting to something more serious, "I have an announcement to make." He stepped away from me, and I felt suddenly exposed in the centre of the room. The sapphires around my throat felt heavy, constricting. After much reflection, I've realised that my heart belongs to someone else, someone who has shown me what true love really means. The words hit me like physical blows. The ballroom began to spin, faces blurring together in a kaleidoscope of confusion and shock. "What?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Alexander's eyes found someone in the crowd, his face softening with genuine tenderness. "Vivian, would you join us?" My stepsister glided forward, her black dress now seeming elegant rather than understated. She moved with newfound confidence, her chin held high as she approached us. "I am sorry, Lara," Alexander said, though his voice held no real remorse. "But I can't marry someone I don't love. Vivian and I have been seeing each other for months. What we have is real." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. I stared at them both, my mind refusing to process what I was hearing. The fatigue was overwhelming now, my vision blurring at the edges. "No," I managed to say, my voice slurred. "This isn't happening." Vivian stepped closer, her green eyes bright with triumph. "I am sorry you had to find out this way, sister, but Alexander chose me. He loves me." To prove her point, she rose on her toes and kissed him passionately in front of everyone. The guests gasped, some turning away from the scandalous display. My legs gave out. I collapsed to my knees on the ballroom floor, my beautiful gown pooling around me like spilled ink. The sapphires felt like shackles now, too heavy for my weakening body. "Lara!" Richard pushed through the crowd, his face white with shock and concern. "What's wrong?" I tried to speak, but only a weak moan escaped my lips. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I reached toward him. "The wine!" I gasped, understanding flooding through me like ice water. "Vivian, she—" But my tongue was thick and unresponsive. Darkness crept in from the edges of my vision as the poison Vivian had given me completed its work. "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted. "Is she having a seizure? What's happening to her?" Through the chaos, I saw Vivian's face above me, no longer the quiet, bookish girl I'd known. Her smile was cold, calculating. She leaned down close to my ear, her voice barely a whisper. "Did you really think you deserved everything? The fortune, the house, the perfect life? I was always the unwanted one, the second choice, but not anymore." My heart stuttered irregularly in my chest, each beat weaker than the last. The ballroom grew dim, the voices fading to distant echoes. Alexander was so easy to seduce once I showed him who I really was. And Daddy's will. Well, let's just say he'll be having an unfortunate accident very soon. Everything you thought was yours will be mine. I wanted to scream, to fight, to warn Richard, but my body had betrayed me completely. The poison coursed through my veins like liquid fire, shutting down my organs one by one. "Sweet dreams, dear sister," Vivian whispered, her breath hot against my ear. "I'll take very good care of everything you're leaving behind." The last thing I saw was Alexander's face, not concerned or remorseful, but coldly satisfied, as he watched me die at his feet. The sapphires around my throat caught the light one final time before everything went black. But instead of the peace of death, I felt a violent jolt, like being pulled backward through time itself. Colours flashed behind my closed eyelids: blue, white, gold, red. The ballroom sounds crashed over me in waves until... Silence. I gasped, my eyes flying open to find myself staring at a familiar ceiling. My bedroom, ceiling. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear Mrs. Peterson humming in the kitchen. My hands flew to my throat. No sapphires, no constricting weight. I was wearing my silk pyjamas, my hair loose around my shoulders. The engagement party dress hung in my closet, waiting. "It was a dream," I whispered, then froze. No, not a dream. I remembered everything, the poison, the betrayal, the cold triumph in Vivian's eyes as I died. But somehow, impossibly, I was back. 3 days before the engagement party. 3 days before everything fell apart. I sat up slowly, my mind racing. How was this possible? Some kind of miracle? A second chance? Footsteps approached my door. "Miss Lara, breakfast is ready," came Mrs. Peterson's familiar call. "Coming," I replied, but my voice shook. I stumbled to my feet, catching sight of myself in the vanity mirror. The same face, the same blonde hair, the same blue eyes. But now they held knowledge that made my soul ache. Vivian had murdered me. Alexander had betrayed me. And if I was truly back in the past, they were both downstairs right now, playing their parts in the elaborate deception that would lead to my death. But not this time. This time I knew what they were planning. This time I would be ready. As I reached for my robe, a cold smile spread across my lips. If they wanted to play games, I would show them what a real player looked like. After all, they had taught me well how to lie, how to deceive, how to destroy someone from within. Time for them to learn what it felt like to be the prey. I walked down the stairs with a newfound purpose, my silk robe flowing behind me like armour. Every step felt deliberate, calculated. The innocent girl who had died on that ballroom floor was gone. In her place stood someone who understood the true nature of the wolves in sheep's clothing that surrounded her. Richard sat at his usual place at the breakfast table, newspaper in hand. "Good morning, sweetheart. Sleep well?" "Like the dead," I replied, the irony lost on him, but crystal clear to me. He looked up with warm eyes, completely unaware that his beloved daughter had murdered his stepdaughter just days from now. My heart ached, seeing his genuine affection, knowing Vivian planned to kill him too. "Where's Vivian this morning?" I asked, settling into my chair with practiced casualness. "Still sleeping. You know how she is." But I did know now. I knew exactly what she was. A calculating predator who had spent years studying my life, learning my weaknesses, planning my destruction. The quiet bookworm act had been perfect camouflage. Footsteps echoed on the marble, and Vivian appeared in the doorway. Same auburn hair, same understated clothes, same false innocence in her green eyes. But now I could see what I'd missed before. The way she catalogued every detail of my appearance, the slight tightening around her eyes when Richard showed me affection, the hungry way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. "Morning," she said softly, taking her seat across from me. "You look tired, honey," Richard observed. "Everything all right?" "Couldn't sleep," she murmured, pouring coffee with those same trembling hands. I leaned forward with false concern. "Poor Viv, you've been having trouble sleeping a lot lately. Maybe you should see a doctor." Her eyes flicked to mine, something sharp passing between us for just a moment. "I'm fine, just excited about your party." "Speaking of which," I said brightly, "I've been thinking about the guest list. Maybe we should invite some of Mother's old friends from the garden club, Mrs. Whitmore, Mrs. Chen, all those lovely ladies who knew our family history so well." Vivian's coffee cup rattled against the saucer. "Don't you think the list is already quite full?" "Oh, but they'd be so disappointed to miss it, especially since they remember when Mother wore these very sapphires to her own engagement." I touched my throat where the necklace would rest. They love hearing about family traditions, family secrets, family legacies. The word legacies hung in the air like a blade. Vivian's face had gone pale, and I could practically see her mind racing, wondering if I somehow knew about her plans for Richard's inheritance. "Actually," I continued casually, buttering my croissant, "I should probably update my will before the wedding, just to make sure everything is properly documented. You know how important family documentation is, don't you, Viv?" "Your will?" Richard looked confused. "Sweetheart, you're only 24. There's no rush for such things." "Oh, but there is. Life is so unpredictable." I met Vivian's stare directly. "You never know when someone might try to poison your happiness." The word poison landed like a physical blow. Vivian's hands began to shake visibly, and she quickly placed them in her lap. "Besides," I continued, my voice light and cheerful, "I want to make sure Vivian is taken care of. She's been such a devoted sister all these years. So thoughtful, so helpful." Each word was chosen deliberately, watching as recognition dawned in Vivian's eyes. She knew, somehow she knew that I knew. "I should go," Vivian said abruptly, standing so quickly her chair scraped against the floor. "I have errands to run." "Of course you do," I smiled sweetly. "Give my regards to Alexander when you see him." She froze halfway to the door. "What?" "Alexander, you mentioned yesterday that you might run into him in town. I just assumed." I tilted my head innocently. "Unless there was some other reason you'd be seeing my fiancé." The silence stretched taut as a wire. Richard looked between us, sensing tension but not understanding its source. "I don't know what you mean," Vivian said carefully. "Don't you?" I stood gracefully, moving closer to her. "I just thought, since you've been so interested in helping him plan surprises for me, you might have more meetings scheduled." Her face cycled through emotions. Fear, confusion, calculation, and finally, a cold hardness I'd never seen before. "I don't know what game you're playing, Lara," she said quietly, "but Be careful. Some games have consequences. Oh, I'm counting on it. My smile could have cut glass. The question is, are you prepared for yours? She fled, her heels clicking rapidly on the marble floor. The front door slammed moments later. Richard stared after her, bewildered. What on earth was that about? Just sisters being sisters, I said, settling back into my chair. Nothing to worry about, Daddy? The endearment made him beam, and I felt another pang of protectiveness. Whatever else happened, I wouldn't let them hurt him. After breakfast, I retired to my room and locked the door. Time to make some calls. My fingers flew over my phone as I contacted my lawyer, my financial advisor, and several other important people in my network. First call. James, it's Lara Ashford. I need to schedule an emergency meeting about my will and estate planning. Yes, today, if possible. And James, I need this completely confidential. No one, and I mean no one, should know about this meeting. Second call. Detective Morrison, this is Lara Ashford. I have some concerns about potential threats to my family. No, nothing immediate, but I'd like to discuss some security measures. Yes, I can come in this afternoon. Third call, the most important one. Alexander? Darling, it's me. I was wondering if we could meet earlier than planned today. I have something important to discuss about our future. The oak tree by the lake. Perfect. I'll see you in an hour. I hung up and stared at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was still beautiful, still young, but her eyes held depths that hadn't been there before. Death had a way of clarifying things, of stripping away illusions and revealing truth. An hour later, I walked through the estate gardens toward our old meeting place. The oak tree by the lake had been our spot since we were teenagers, where Alexander first kissed me, where he'd proposed 6 months ago. How fitting that it would also be where I confronted him about his betrayal. He was waiting when I arrived, handsome as always in his casual clothes. When he saw me, his face lit up with that charming smile that had once made my heart flutter. Now I saw it for what it was, a mask worn by a consummate actor. Lara, you look radiant as always. He moved to kiss me, but I stepped back. We need to talk, Alexander. Something flickered in his eyes. About what? About Vivian. The change was subtle but unmistakable. His shoulders tensed, his smile became more forced. What about her? How long have you been sleeping with my stepsister? The words hung in the air between us like an accusation. Alexander's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I stepped closer, my voice deadly quiet. I know, Alexander. I know everything. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Adults. He studied my face, and I could see him weighing his options. Deny, confess, attack. Finally, he chose honesty, or at least a version of it. How long have you known? He asked. Long enough. I circled him slowly like a predator sizing up prey. Did you think I was stupid? Did you think I wouldn't notice the way you looked at her? The way she looked at you? Lara, I never meant for this to happen. It just did. Oh, please, spare me the tragic love story. I laughed, but there was no humour in it. You planned this, both of you. The question is why. Is it the money, the social connections, or did you just enjoy the challenge of destroying me? His jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand. Try me. He was quiet for a long moment, staring out over the lake. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder, more honest than I'd ever heard it. Do you know what it's like to always be second choice? To have everything handed to you while others work twice as hard for half as much? He turned to face me. You've never wanted for anything, Lara. You've never had to fight for recognition, for love, for basic respect. So this is about jealousy? It's about justice. His eyes flashed with genuine anger now. Vivian loves me in a way you never could. She sees me, appreciates me, understands what I've sacrificed to be with you. What? You've sacrificed? I stared at him in disbelief. I gave you everything. My heart, my trust, my future. Your father's money, you mean? Your social position? Your connections? He stepped closer, and for a moment I saw real hatred in his eyes. But never you. Not really. You love the idea of me, the perfect husband for the perfect heiress. But Vivian loves the man I actually am. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. He truly believed what he was saying. In his mind, he was the wronged party, the misunderstood lover fighting for true happiness. So you decided to kill me for it? He went very still. What did you say? The poison, Alexander. In the wine Vivian plans to give me at the engagement party. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? His face went white, then red. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. I've been recording this entire conversation, every word of your confession. His eyes widened in panic, then narrowed in rage. You little bitch! Now there's the real Alexander. I smiled coldly. Not so charming when your mask slips, are you? He lunged for the phone, but I was ready. I sidestepped neatly, and he stumbled past me toward the lake's edge. I wouldn't, if I were you, I said calmly. This recording is already uploaded to a secure server. If anything happens to me, it goes straight to the police, along with everything else I've discovered about your plans. He straightened slowly, breathing heavily. What do you want? What I want is to destroy you both the way you tried to destroy me. I moved closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. But what I'm willing to settle for is this. You're going to confess everything to Richard tonight. You're going to tell him exactly what you and Vivian planned, and then you're going to disappear from our lives forever. And if I refuse? Then I'll let the law handle it. Murder conspiracy carries a life sentence, Alexander. Is Vivian's love worth spending the rest of your life in prison? His shoulders sagged in defeat. You've changed, Lara. This isn't the woman I fell in love with. No, I agreed. That woman died 3 days ago. What you're looking at now is what she became. Someone who learned not to trust wolves in designer clothing. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing by the lake. Phase 1 of my revenge was complete. Now for the real challenge, dealing with Vivian. After all, she was the one who'd actually held the knife. Or, in this case, the poison. That evening, I stood before my closet selecting the perfect outfit for the confrontation ahead. The midnight blue engagement gown hung there like a ghost of futures past. But I chose something else entirely. A simple black dress that would serve as both armour and statement. Tonight, I would bury the naive girl who had trusted blindly and been destroyed for it. Downstairs, Vivian paced the library like a caged animal. Through the partially open door, I could see her phone pressed to her ear, her voice low and urgent. She knows something, I'm telling you. No, I don't know how, but she's different. We need to move the timeline up. I pushed the door open with deliberate force, making it bang against the wall. Vivian spun around, her face draining of colour as she saw me. I have to go, she whispered into the phone, ending the call. Alexander, I assume? I stepped into the room, closing the door behind me with a soft click. Planning your next move? Lara, I don't know what you think you heard. Cut the act, Vivian. I moved closer, and she instinctively backed away. We both know you're not the quiet little bookworm you pretend to be. The question is, how long have you been planning to kill me? Her mask finally slipped completely. The innocent confusion vanished, replaced by cold calculation and naked hatred. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder, more confident. Longer than you can imagine, she said, lifting her chin defiantly. Do you want to know when it started? The exact moment I decided you needed to die? I remained silent, letting her reveal herself. It was my 16th birthday, remember? You threw that surprise party for me, invited all your friends, made such a show of being the perfect big sister. Her lips twisted into a bitter smile. But it wasn't really for me, was it? It was for you. Another chance to be the centre of attention, the beloved princess showing charity to the poor orphan girl. You're wrong. Am I? Everyone spent the entire party talking about you. How generous you were, how kind, how lucky I was to have such a wonderful sister. I stood there in that ridiculous pink dress you picked out. Not my colour, by the way, but you never cared what I actually liked, and watched you steal my birthday the same way you'd stolen everything else. She began circling me, predator to prey, her true nature finally unleashed. That's when I realised the truth. As long as you existed, I would always be second, the consolation prize, the afterthought, Richard's pity project instead of his beloved daughter. So, I started planning. First small things, switching your homework with mine so you'd fail tests, spreading rumours about you at school, little accidents that made you look clumsy or stupid. My stomach churned as memories resurfaced. All those embarrassing moments, the mysterious mishaps I'd attributed to bad luck. They'd all been her. But it wasn't enough. You just kept bouncing back, kept being perfect, kept stealing the spotlight that should have been mine. So I decided to take everything that mattered to you. Your fiancé was laughably easy. Men are so predictable when a woman truly listens to them, makes them feel understood. And the poison? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Mother's old garden shed is full of interesting plants. Did you know foxglove looks quite lovely dried and ground up? Mixed with wine, it has a pleasantly bitter taste. You'd have died slowly, painfully, while everyone watched. The perfect, tragic end to the perfect princess. The casual way she described my murder sent ice through my veins. This wasn't passion or jealousy, this was pure, calculated evil. What about Richard? I asked. Were you planning to kill your own father too? He's not my father. The words came out flat and cold. My real father was a drunk who abandoned me when I was 5. Richard married my mother for convenience, and when she died, he kept me around out of guilt. He never loved me the way he loves you. So you were going to murder him too. An unfortunate accident. Grieving fathers often become careless, especially when dealing with the trauma of losing their beloved daughter. A slip on the stairs, a fall from the balcony, a heart attack brought on by stress. So many possibilities. The sheer scope of her evil took my breath away. She'd planned not just my death, but Richard's, all to claim an inheritance and a life that was never meant to be hers. There's just one problem with your plan, I said, pulling out my phone. I recorded this entire confession. For a moment, panic flashed across her features. Then she laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Do you really think I'm that stupid? I've been planning this for years, Lara. I know all about your little recording apps, your cloud storage, your security measures. She held up a small device I'd never seen before. Electronic signal jammer. Nothing you've recorded in the last 10 minutes has been saved anywhere. My blood turned to ice as I checked my phone. No signal, no connection, no backup. Did you really think you could outsmart me? Vivian stepped closer, her green eyes glittering with triumph. You're still the same naive little girl who believed everyone was as innocent as you. I've been studying you, learning your patterns, anticipating your moves since we were children. She was right. Despite everything I'd learned, despite the knowledge from my death, I'd still underestimated her. I'd played her game by her rules, and she'd been 3 steps ahead the entire time. The beautiful thing is, no one will ever suspect me, she continued. Poor, quiet Vivian, devastated by her sister's suicide. Because that's what this will look like. The stressed bride-to-be, overwhelmed by wedding preparations, finally snapping under the pressure. She pulled a small pistol from her purse, holding it steady despite her delicate appearance. "Where did you get that?" I whispered. "Richard's study. He never did secure that gun safe properly. Another example of how little attention he pays to details that matter." The weapon looked huge in her small hands, but her grip was confident. She'd planned this moment down to the smallest detail. "Any last words, dear sister?" I stared at her, this woman who'd shared my home, my family, my life for over a decade while planning my destruction. But then, something she'd said earlier clicked into place. "You made one mistake," I said calmly. Her confidence wavered slightly. "What?" "You assumed I was still the same naive girl you've always known. But I'm not." I smiled, and this time it was my turn to reveal a hidden truth. "I never trusted you completely, not after I came back." "What are you talking about?" "The real recording isn't on my phone, Vivian. It's on the device I planted in this room 3 hours ago." I gestured toward the bookshelf where a tiny camera lens glinted between 2 volumes. "Everything you've said, everything you've confessed has been streaming live to Detective Morrison's office." Her face went white. "You're lying." "Am I? Then why don't you check your phone? See if you have any missed calls from the police." With shaking fingers, she pulled out her device. The colour drained from her face as she saw multiple missed calls and text messages. "No," she whispered. The sound of cars pulling into the driveway echoed through the house. Red and blue lights flashed against the library windows as police vehicles surrounded the estate. "It's over, Vivian." I stepped closer to her, no longer afraid. I may have been naive once, but dying taught me something valuable. Never trust a wolf, no matter how well it wears sheep's clothing. The front door burst open, and Detective Morrison's voice echoed through the house. "Police! Nobody move!" Vivian raised the gun toward me, desperation replacing calculation in her eyes. "If I'm going down, you're coming with me?" "I don't think so." Richard appeared in the doorway behind her, his face a mask of heartbreak and determination. "Put the gun down, Vivian." She spun towards him, weapon wavering between us. "Daddy, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." His voice was heavy with grief. "I heard everything. The cameras, the recording devices. Lara told me about them this afternoon. I've been listening from the next room." Tears streamed down Vivian's face as the weight of her exposure crashed over her. "I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to belong." "You did belong," Richard said gently. "I loved you as my own daughter. If you just talk to me or—" "No!" she screamed. "You never loved me the way you loved her. It was always Lara, always perfect, beautiful Lara." The gun swung back toward me, but before she could pull the trigger, Detective Morrison appeared behind her. The taser crackled, and Vivian collapsed to the floor, the weapon clattering harmlessly across the marble. As the paramedics checked her vitals, and the officers read her rights, I stood in Richard's embrace, finally safe. The engagement party would be cancelled, the wedding postponed indefinitely, while Alexander faced his own charges for conspiracy to commit murder. "I'm sorry," Richard whispered against my hair. "I'm so sorry I didn't see what she was." "She fooled everyone," I replied. That was her greatest talent, making people believe she was harmless. Months later, I stood in a courtroom as the judge delivered Vivian's sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. Alexander received 15 years for his role in the plot. As they led Vivian away in shackles, she turned to look at me one last time. The hatred in her eyes had been replaced by something else. Acceptance, perhaps, or Simply exhaustion. I would have been a better daughter than you, she said quietly. Maybe, I replied, but you would never have been a better person. After the trial, Richard and I slowly began rebuilding our lives. The house felt different, lighter somehow, as if a shadow had been lifted. We donated Vivian's belongings to charity and converted her room into a home office. Do you think you'll ever be able to trust again? Richard asked one evening as we sat by the fireplace. I considered the question carefully. The old Lara would have said yes immediately, eager to believe the best in everyone. But death had taught me wisdom, along with wariness. I'll trust, I said finally. But I'll verify. I'll never again assume that quiet waters run shallow. 6 months after the trial, I met someone new. David, a prosecutor who'd worked on Vivian's case. He understood shadows and secrets, had seen enough darkness to appreciate genuine light when he found it. What made you want to go out with me? I asked him on our third date. He smiled, his brown eyes warm and honest. You survived something that should have destroyed you, and instead of becoming bitter, you became wise. That's not common in this world. As I fell asleep that night in the house that was finally, truly safe, I thought about second chances and the strange mercy that had brought me back from death. I'd used that chance not just for revenge, but for justice. Not just to punish the guilty, but to protect the innocent. The naive girl who'd trusted blindly was gone forever, buried in that ballroom alongside the poison and the lies. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who understood that the greatest kindness was sometimes the hardest truth. And for the first time since my return, I slept without nightmares, knowing that the wolves were finally behind bars where they belonged.